Okay, so I loaded the program from the last video into Python Tutor, and we want to simulate it. So let's visualize. Okay. Okay. So notice I have something called a stack and a heap. Okay, but for our purposes, I want us to look over this side on the stack. Okay. All right. So let's start executing. So notice whenever the program starts, you might be thinking, well, it's going to start here on line 5. Okay. No, it doesn't. We're going to start from main. Okay. So this is a very key takeaway. It doesn't matter how big your program is or how small your program is. Whenever you start running your program, the compiler, right, your computer will always start from main. Okay, that's something I want you to always remember. The program always starts from main, and that's why we use the special name main, because it means where we begin. Okay, it's the main function. It's the start of our program. So next, we see that we will execute line 13. And so notice, I want you to notice, okay, currently this blue highlight, and you notice result is a variable, okay, but currently we don't know what the answer, what the value of result is, because we only get that answer after we call the function. So notice what's going to happen. When I execute line 13, I'm going to jump to the function. So look at it. Okay, so, and I want you to notice that we leave main. So main in blue will no longer be in blue, it's going to be in white. And the blue will be here, area of square. Okay, so area of square will be blue. Good. So all of that will happen right over this side. Okay, so notice I'm going to jump up. Okay, so whenever you call a function, we go to that function. Okay, now notice the blue is in here. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that this function has the control. It's now the one in control. It's the one that is going to execute its body. Okay, and main is now in white, which simply means main is waiting for that answer. All right, it's like when you send somebody out to the shop to go buy for you. Well, you have to wait. The person buys, and then they come back, and then they give you what they bought. So main is waiting, so it's in white. Area of square is in blue, so it's the one doing the work. So pay attention. I have a box, a variable called result in main, and a variable in area of square called result. And clearly you can see that there are two separate boxes. And so now we can answer our first question. The variables that you create inside of a function is only local to that function, meaning main cannot see inside of this function to notice that it also has a variable called result. Okay, and so because of this very important property of functions, we can reuse names, and the compiler will know that it should create a completely separate box, and that the two boxes, even though they have the same name and the same type, they're actually different. Okay, good. So let's execute. Okay, so notice we have the side of square being 2. Where did the 2 come from? Well, it's the argument 2. Okay, so now the function knows that whenever we say side of square, we actually mean 2. Okay, so notice now I end up with 4. 2 times 2 gives me 4. Now this 4 will be sent back. Now I want you to notice something. When this function finishes, right, when it sends back the 4 and it finishes, I want you to notice that this blue box with the function name and everything will now be destroyed. You will no longer see it. Okay, so notice when you finish, we're gonna jump back to main, but I want you to pay attention to something. When you jump back to main, we're gonna jump back to line 14. Okay, not line 13, line 14, the line after. All right, so this was the line we use to go to the function, and so when the function comes back, it has been programmed to know that it should go back to line 14. Okay, so notice now, right, we have 4, and when it finishes, it goes back to line 14, and you notice the function has been destroyed. Everything inside that we did has been destroyed. It's gone. And for that reason, because we know that the function will be destroyed, we must send back whatever it calculated. If we don't send it back, it's destroyed. Okay, and so to avoid that 4 being destroyed, we say return result. And see, so if you think about it, this entire area of square 2, it evaluates, or it becomes the number 4, and that 4 will be stored in the variable called result right here. And so now we can print the 4 up here. Okay, so again, this is how a function works. Okay, we call it, we give it an argument or arguments if it's more than one, and then when it's called, it will jump to the function. We will replace the parameter with the actual argument, and then we will execute the body. Remember, the body is in the curly braces, and if anything is returned, it will be sent back. And so we must create a variable, we must create a box to hold that result. Okay, one mistake beginners make is that when they call the function and the function returns something, they fail to save it. Okay, that's a common error, a common error for beginning programmers. So we want to avoid that. Okay, so this is another look, and the key takeaway, very important, we can reuse names. Okay, so even though I have this variable being called result, it's different than this one in here in main called result. Why? Because they are two different things. This function is called area of square, and this function is called main, and they cannot see inside of each other. Okay, they are separate. And so because they are separate, we can reuse names. Now that's a very important property of functions. Once you understand that, you're on your way to learning about functions. Okay, I'll see you in the next lesson.